So the Calgary Police has a new tool that will help officers dealing with emergencies involving people with disabilities and are asking Calgarians that qualify to register. The Vulnerable Person Self-Registry is a database that allows people to voluntarily submit their own information if they have a physical, mental, or medical condition that means they may require special attention in an emergency. The information is a self-registry that can then be accessed by first responders through Calgary 911 Center when a vulnerable person is in danger or distress due to emergency or disaster. The information stored in the database will not be used as a part of a criminal investigation. In order to be included in the self-registry, people who have a disability or their caretakers need to provide the person's name, date of birth, physical description, contact information, methods of approach/communications, a photo of the person's face, and a description of any life-threatening medical conditions. The information then has to be updated at least once a year or it'll be removed from the database. The Vulnerable Person Self-Registry is an initiative that was spearheaded by the Diversity Resource Team in an effort to better serve Calgarians, persons with disabilities. Consultations were held with several community organizations and within the Calgary Police Service to develop the program that will help ensure critical information about people with disabilities can be quickly accessed. Calgarians can register by visiting www.calgarypolice.ca or searching for Vulnerable Persons Self-Registry, and it'll be on the link there.
Now,
yes.
Let's start this process now. Like, how long has it been in the system for? Sort of trials and tribulations.
Trials and tribulations. Yes, I've been working on the project about 3.5 years. With collaborations with the community, consultations with other police forces across Canada and North America. And we needed that community buy-in and that community engagement to kind of get this moving forward. I think the requests and the demands initially came right from the communities and the clients. Getting phone calls from clients or parents or support workers within the disabilities community asking me how they could give the police their information. How can we let the police know the vulnerability of my client? Why he doesn't make eye contact or why he doesn't verbally answer them in those types of situations. So I really feel that the starting point was actually from the request from the communities and agencies that we partnership with.
And how will it help you do your job?
Well, the old saying, you don't know what you don't know, right? So if we have the information from that vulnerable populace, some individuals we may be accessing that information more often than not. Other individuals we may never have to pull their information up, but I think for the one-time situations where we're going to need it, we're going to know that information on the individual ahead of time or when we're dealing with them, not 3-4 hours later. So if someone has a brain injury, they may be presenting as being intoxicated or inebriated, but if they've self-registered with us, then we can get that information to the frontline officers as in, they're not intoxicated or whatever the situation is, the medications they're on. So maybe it would be more of a EMS call than a police.
And why the call then to eliminate the profile after a year if it's not updated, if it's going to be that beneficial?
Yes, so we've kind of put the parameters in there once again from the community, right? So I went to the community and said, because we're not going to keep this information. It's voluntarily, we're only going to have that information for as long as that individual wants us to, right? So we kind of had to set the parameters on this. The parameters are actually 6 months, 1 year, or 2 years, where they can set the expiry date or for whenever that's going to come off the system. And just because the populace is so diverse, right? There'll be some individuals that will always need to have it renewed or updated every 6 months, and then there'll be other individuals, their circumstances hasn't changed in years, so probably more of a 2-year renewal. And once that expires and they no longer wish for us to have it, then it's gone, right? We're not housing and storing this for 10 or 15 years down the road, right? So.
What kind of presence will there be from the CPS to sort of monitor the system? Are you adding more officers to the program, or?
At this point, it's me. So I'm the officer that'll be checking the applications and going through those processes, responding to the emails and the phone calls. For succession planning and a couple years down the road, that's completely up to the service on whether it'll be a full hired position or whether it'll be designated to maybe our records processing team or something like that. So, but the succession planning is there, that this is going to be sustainable and long term. Yeah.
Who are the stakeholders that you met with that told you that this was needed?
Well, part of my job is I work with multiple agencies throughout the city, right? So Cerebral Palsy Alberta, Epilepsy Society, Multiple Sclerosis Society, Brain Injury. I've got about 40 agencies here. City of Calgary. I've been working with SEMA as well, so emergency management, bringing in the stakeholders, right? Bringing in the people that this is going to affect along the way, right? It's been a process, right? So there's multiple agencies that I work with every day.
So it's like a super localized digital medical record.
Yeah, I guess you could call it that. You
Not
could-
exactly that, but
Yeah, and once again, the individuals, right? So if somebody doesn't have the capacity to be able to register themselves, right? So their legal guardian, their care providers, family doctors can assist them in doing that, and then their information has to be added to the system as well. It's that check and balance. And once again, it's a police system, right? So the information is going to be there for us to be able to use.
Is this information only available to officers upon identification of the individual, or does a red flag signify potential if you're headed to a certain address or tailing a certain vehicle?
No. So once again, it's voluntarily and only for emergencies for that individual. So the officers can't be using it as an investigative tool, right? It's not to, to assist in their investigation. If they have that individual in front of them, or the process of attending the call, something is flagged in our system that says this person's registered on the Vulnerable Persons Registry, right? So the accessing the information has to be justified and accountable the same as any other police system. But it's, right, we're definitely going to have to be the gatekeepers of this because people are voluntarily giving us their information. So if they do request that information from the front line, right, justification on and access is going to be the same.
So what's
Right.
sort of the scope of what can be presented, like as you say, epilepsy and things like that? What's the full scope?
If you would consider yourself vulnerable in an emergency situation or disaster, you can send in your application to us.
Maybe physical, mental, anything?
Anything, cognitive, developmental, whatever, however the person would identify or their caregivers would identify them. Right, once again, if you don't consider yourself vulnerable and you don't want the police to have your information, well, then you're not going to, right? But we made it more inclusive than exclusive, right? City of Calgary is getting pretty big, and I work with, like I said, 40 or 50 different community agencies, so I wanted to make it more inclusive than limiting. You can only register if you have this. You can only register if you have that. So it's pretty open.
Is this unique to Calgary? Are there other centers that are that have programs like this?
From my research and the work that I've done and the phone calls I've made, this is very unique to Calgary. Yeah, there is other police agencies in Canada and in North America that have done something similar or very disability specific. But for the scope of this and the inclusiveness of it, this is very unique just for Calgary, yeah.
Great. Thank you.
I apologize because I was late to the party. But if I
Yes.
may just, first of all, can I get your name?
Patty, Constable Patty DeSarmo.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you give me just a sense in terms of the kind of challenges that officers were facing prior to this that led to that basically prompted a plan like this?
Challenges for the officers, I think, would be the same with any other type of calls that they do. But I think from the frontline perspective, because I have been out there, if you can have that information on that vulnerable populace ahead of time, you're probably going to do things a little differently. And this isn't going to be a end-all, fix-all, nothing's going to be missed ever again. But I would consider this just another incredible asset and tool for us to have for frontline responders. Firsthand, right? The information we're getting is firsthand from that vulnerable person. And it's going to be a lot quicker than if we had nothing on them at all.
And it's basically some kind of ID?
No, it'll be, so each applicant will receive a tracking number. So the application process is through email, right? 'Cause that's the one way we had to kind of stay connected with them. So they won't have an ID bracelet. There won't be that kind of labeling for them because some individuals, that would be pointless for them to have. They wouldn't have the capacity to do that. But there'll be tracking numbers and respond to emails, multiple emails sent out, and phone calls if need be from myself or from volunteers, and we can get them in to help with the system.
Sort of, if
Yeah.
you get a client from a group home that maybe has dual diagnosis or something like
Yes.
this, and they're out on a shopping trip, and
Mhm.
somehow they have an interaction with a CPS officer,
Mhm.
how does that system work then in a situation like that?
So when the call comes in, right, it depends on the type of call, right? So is it a Pri-1 call, is it a 911, or is it a wandering individual in the mall, right, that's not of their faculties at the time? Through the investigation and with communications with public safety comms, they'll be able to do that. You know, what's your first name? If they can get that from the individuals, comms can then search that first name, right? Or if they can get their last name or any kind of ID, they'll be able to pull them up in the systems as that. Right now, the system doesn't have address capability, but it'll be probably in the next couple of weeks of it being able to actually search by address as well. Photo attachment as well, right? So all these applications coming in have the photo and a full description of the individual as well. So, right, when they could clarify that was the individual that they have in front of them through description, through all whatever they've filled out for us, right? Then they could say, oh, this person has this, or this is a situation, here's their emergency contact information, right? They're diabetic, they have epilepsy, whatever the situation would be, and then the officers can deal with that accordingly with all that information that they have firsthand.
Right, I appreciate it. Basically, my final question is
Yes.
the dumb, obvious question.
No.
But just the why. Why are you doing it?
Oh, why? I think it's needed. I think it's needed from a police perspective, and I think it's absolutely needed from a community agency perspective, right? City of Calgary is not getting any smaller, right? I think we're at 1.2, 1.3 million people right now. So if you do the demographics on the population itself, we're looking at 300,000 people in this city who would possibly be in that demographic, right? And you have that trust, you have the buy-in, and you have that two-way communication with the agencies. So why not, right? It's just another tool for us, and it's another so we can do our job a little bit better for that populace.
Were seniors organizations, social services organizations approaching you folks, taking the initiative of this, saying we need this? We're finding that we have clients that are.
I'd get the odd phone call from seniors groups, just with the dementia and the Alzheimer's and that kind of thing. But at that point, I'd already had the database up and kind of doing the business cases and the proposals and all that for the executives. So I think just that confirmation from myself that just be patient, it's coming. We do want your information. We are going to be the gatekeepers of it. I think just kind of made the light bulb go off for them a little bit more that, you know, that the police care and that we're doing as much as we can with what we have, right? So.
One of the challenges I would think would be that a good portion of our homeless population
Mm-hmm.
would classify as vulnerable.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily have the means to voluntarily provide this information.
Right.
Are you working with agencies that way, drop-in center, et cetera?
Alpha House, Drop-In Center, Source. Source is a big key player for us. And through the process, I understood that there would be that slight populace that, you know, they don't have an email address. What are we going to do? But I think for the initial stages and to kind of move forward with it, it's a starting block, right? If someone's NFA, but they have a Gmail account, or there's someone at the drop-in center, that Alpha House, that would be willing to assist them with that, there's no reason why it couldn't be, right? That's not a rejection. That's not a X no because they're NFA, right? It'd probably suit them better to be in our system, right? So I think if however the agencies and the support systems out there are going to assist those people to get us their information, right? We're definitely open to that for sure.
So you
Have at her.
You have the information. You find somebody has has schizophrenia or something
Mhm.
like this. So how does this system then play into actually helping this person and in that interaction between the officer and?
Well, right. If we have that information ahead of time, we're gonna know what we're dealing with. We're gonna know what we're going into, right? We're gonna use some different tools and some different strategies in play than if they didn't have schizophrenia and we didn't know about it, right? So it's just another tool to assist us in dealing with that individual on those case-by-case basis.
And this information is available not just to police, but all first responders?
Right now, all the information will be distributed out through 911 comms, right? If ambulance and fire need access, it's an emergency, right? It's going to assist that individual, so of course that'll be that information sharing, same as there would be for any other police system.